Welcome to the CFBDynasty podcast with hosts Matt Knowles, Brian McElfresh, and Doug Gravely.
Good morning, y'all.
What up,
Matt Knowles today. Doug and Brian here. Today we're talking DFS. You know, we've had 2 great weeks in a row on DFS. And we've got the tools to kind of showcase and talk through all of that stuff. And a good 9 hours for me to wait for the Florida-Tennessee game. And it's basically a life or death scenario here. You know, Florida wins. All is right with the world. And everything tastes better and all that good stuff. And if Florida loses, my life is just going to fall apart, plain and simple. How are you today, Doug?
Man, I'm good. My stressful day is tomorrow. You know I'm a big Jags fan above everything else. So
get out of here. We're not here to talk about NFL.
I'm not
Forget the
too
Jags.
overly concerned about today.
Nothing matters.
I just hope
tomorrow,
that I actually make some money in DFS today.
Well, just play my lineups. It's pretty simple. I've got some great ones. We'll share those at the end of the show. But anyways, let's get right to it, Doug. We'll start here with news and notes as we are a little bit more fast-paced than the weekly show, just to kind of get these things out to y'all early in the morning, set those DraftKings and FanDuel lineups. And we've got some player props to talk about too. But let's get to the news.
News and notes around college football.
All right, y'all. So those of you that do follow us on the good old Discord, last night I posted a bunch of updates, and nothing's really changed too much today, except for yesterday they officially did announce that Tyler Buckner is going to get the start today against USF. So, I mean, I know that punches BMAC in the stomach a little bit here, but can't say that I'm necessarily surprised. But
I'll add on that one. I'm not surprised. I'm just sad and disappointed. I think it's one of those things. If you watch the game, if you've seen Milroe play, you know that scheme is not tailored to him. If they put him in a situation to be great, if he goes and played at an offense like Oregon next year or something like that, it would be different for Milroe. And I think they would be hard to stop. So we'll see what happens. I don't know that Buckner adds any strengths that Milroe already didn't have. But anyways, continue on with the news and notes.
Yeah, so going along with that Buckner transition, I still, in the back of my mind, expect them to have some packages set up for Milroe to get in the game. I can't see them not using his athletic ability. So, but we'll see how that game plays out. I guess it's USF, so we'll see how that works. Chandler Rogers for North Texas is going to get the start over Stone Earl today. So we'll see how that plays out. They could have a new quarterback for the rest of the year, or it could just be, their offensive line might be bad or whatever. Who knows? Just maybe a system that just doesn't tailor to quarterbacks very well. So we've got Grant Wells for Virginia Tech is a game time decision still. So I guess he got hurt last week with an ankle injury. Was nursing it all week. Still doesn't feel 100%. So we'll see how that goes. And then, like I said, on the Discord, we have a bunch of them. Just a bunch of game time decisions for today. And then a fun one that I wanted to bring up, because I know this is near and dear to Brian's heart too, is a couple weeks ago we talked about Arik Gilbert getting arrested in Nebraska
yesterday.
Now he gets arrested for burglary charges in Georgia.
Yep. Eric Gilbert, man.
So he may be somebody that you guys just want to drop off your roster because it looks like he is completely ruining his football career.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one that's still got him on the roster, but that's only because I'm not allowed to cut him till the off seasons unless he.
It's just so unfortunate, and I was going to get your opinion on how you feel about this. I mean, you were an athlete growing up, so was I. I mean, most people being athletes growing up would like give an arm and a leg for these opportunities. Why are these kids just throwing them away? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's so frustrating. So,
all right. Anything else? News and notes notable for starts this week?
Starts this week. The only man, I don't see anything like pressing. Yeah, I think we're mostly good. The only other big news is LJ Martin, the freshman running back at BYU, is getting the start this week. So yeah, so that's a good
one. That's a big one.
It's pretty big.
I wonder what his DraftKings value is. That's definitely one to look at there. All right, so we'll move along then. Let's get into the best plays of the week. Looking at data, we're going to show you guys where the shootout's going to happen in college football today, and then looking at those high probability position groups. Let's just move it right along. And then I do have sort of an injury update, but that'll be in the sleeper section too.
Shootouts of the week.
All right, so if you're following along on YouTube, a few of you are, that's great. Here we go, high probability position groups. And how this works is basically you've got the team here. You see like Alabama against their opponent, South Florida. They are away. You can see in the third column there. And the implied final score based on the spread and the over-under would be Bama 46, South Florida 14. And then you can see the last year stats. See, I think next week we'll start moving to the year-to-date stats as we have 3 data points for every team at least there. And then we've got defense versus the pass there. Last year, South Florida was 124th, which means passing attack for Bama should be wide open. And then you see the defense versus the rush, 129th. So Bama should be able to run all over them too. And that's just how this works out. This tool is built to showcase the beat downs, and then you can see versus the pass versus the rush data, so you can see where each team has the best opportunity. So if you're looking for a position group, how this is helpful if you're filling out a lineup here, you're looking for maybe a big passing attack advantage to find a cheap player, and all those cheap players in DraftKings and FanDuel, we'll be talking about them here in the next segment in just a couple minutes. But anyways, that's what this tool is for. And then you scroll below that and we've got our shootouts of the week as the drops suggested there. So you're looking at close games. It's important for fantasy because you think of, like Bo Nix in a shootout, he might be done midway through the third quarter. He might have got you the projected allotted amount of points in fantasy and all that stuff in that span. But if you're looking for players that are going to play the full game and games that are going to be high scoring, here's your shootouts this week. So we've got TCU against Houston. It's a short touchdown spread there with a 36-28 final score projected in favor of TCU. Louisiana Tech against North Texas should be about a 34-30 type of finish. So a lot of points scored there. Toledo, San Jose State, Tennessee, Florida. The Tulane Green Wave against Southern Miss. It's a little less of a shootout. This most weeks probably would not make the list, but it's got Tulane 32.5-20. So we included that one in there. UAB, the Fighting Trent Dilfers against the Raging Cajuns. 31-29 implied final score there. Syracuse and Purdue, 30-28. Another big shootout there at Vanderbilt, UNLV. Matt's big on Vanderbilt players this week as one of the last weeks you can probably play those players. So use those starts while you can if you need to, if that makes you feel better. And then the last one, Liberty against Buffalo, 30-26 implied final score there based on those Vegas metrics. So those are two tools where you're looking for players that are cheap, that can help you out in a pinch, way more higher probability for getting points out of a cheap player that's going to get maybe 20 snaps versus one that'll get, 20 snaps in a lower scoring game. So you're always playing the math, putting the math in your favor, and that's how you win more often than you lose, hopefully, and that's the play this week. All right. Let's get into our sleepers. I'm excited to talk about that, then get into our stack of the week, and then we'll close it up with the host picks. So it's not necessarily the host battle. We do that during our show where we pick a lineup blind to each other and then unveil it on the show. We'll talk about those lineups in a couple of our other favorite lineups this week that we'll be playing a lot, and then we'll end it with start 'em, sit 'em. So let's move along to our sleepers of the week.
DFS Sleepers.
All right, Doug. So you might have some extras or comments on any of these. Welcome, obviously, to chime in whenever. I'll start with Riley Leonard for Duke. He's at 6,700. Your cheaper, air quote, cheaper quarterbacks are more expensive than our other positions just because that's the value of quarterbacks, and you've got to nail them. So we're not looking for players necessarily that are going to we won't list any expensive players. These wouldn't be our quote, starts of the week or whatever. But these are, if you're looking to be cheaper here, which I always do, I'm always starting off with a quarterback that I think has value in the first one. And then throughout, while I'm setting the lineup, as I get to the super flex to see how much money I can have left. I want known commodities. I don't want to have a guy on my team that ends with 5 points. That's just going to kill your chances. So I'd say if your target's like 200 points for a DFS lineup in DraftKings or FanDuel, it really starts with quarterback. So I've got Riley Leonard at 6,700, Donovan Smith at 8,000. That's in one of our shootouts of the week against Chandler Morris, also in that game, priced at 7,200. I'm pretty sure I have, and I'll talk about it. I'll pull this up on my DraftKings and show it. But I think I've got both of them. They're playing against each other in a shootout of the week. I've got both of them in a lineup with one that I'm super invested in, or will be at least before the kickoff happens here. And then Mikey Keene, I think, is undervalued. He is playing against Arizona State, but Arizona State's in a total rebuild, and I think there's plenty of points there for Mikey Keene at a budget-friendly 6,800. Who do you like there the best or least there, Doug?
Man, I like Donovan Smith a lot. I think it's going to be a shootout there, but I said it in our podcast on Tuesday, man. My brisket lock is Leonard, so
yep,
I'm going to roll with Leonard in that group.
Love it. Let's move along to running backs. Keep it fast-paced. Jawar Jordan, I couldn't believe he was still 5,500. I know. He's had now a low amount of carries, but he's a feature of the offense here. That's an easy pick for me. I think all of us, when we picked our blind lineups, I think all of us had him in the lineup, which means it should be an easy selection for most people, I think. At least the people that follow the show and follow fantasy football. And have at least caught a glimpse of what he is to the Louisville offense, because he's going to get some catches as well. Another one that I think, you remember when Israel Abanikanda came onto the scene last year? He burst onto the scene.
He came onto the scene when he came onto the
right.
scene.
And that was after Rodney Hammond got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's Hammond back healthy. They've had a couple of easier games where they didn't need to run him 20 plus times.
Right.
Well, hey, this might be the game. It's a rivalry game against hated West Virginia. Pitt loves to run the ball. Is this a breakout for Hammond? If it is, he is such a steal at 5,700. I love him as a sleeper this week. Another one that I have with your boy, Rocket Sanders, kind of sideline for yet another week. AJ Green is just 5,500. You're getting the starting running back for Arkansas. And I like that. I mean, they did run DeBoynian or whatever. I forget how to pronounce his name. I apologize. And another running back. But AJ Green is the starter. He's going to get the bulk of the carries, and love that start as a potential sleeper there. Another one that I have, Trevor Etienne. You see me, if you're on YouTube, wearing my Blue Gators polo here. So disregard this if you want to, but certainly maybe a little bit of orange and blue glasses. But I still think he's really cheap. I think he should get 15 touches or so tonight, and that's really what you want to play is touches. And we'll talk about that with a couple of y'all's questions in the Discord for Start Sit. Got Michael Wiley at 6,000, Cam Scatabo, Arizona State 5,800. Who here do you like or dislike?
So, of course, I like Jawar Jordan. And I'm going to add one. We just talked about him a couple minutes ago. You said you were curious to know how much he is on DFS. Martin for BYU getting the start is $4,500.
Ooh, that's a good one.
They are playing Arkansas, but I can see with those two teams the style of play being very old school, smash mouth kind of football. And we mentioned Arkansas, and I failed to mention this earlier, but expect KJ Jefferson to kind of be a feature at a quarterback position too.
Totally.
Not afraid to run the ball either.
Totally.
So
and
him and AJ Green show for sure.
Yeah, AJ Green was actually talking about how much more smoothly the Arkansas offense is when he runs it more. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that either. We'll move along to receivers. Now, if you know DraftKings or whatever, they put tight ends in with receivers. Mm-hmm. So we've got a couple of tight ends here that I love.
47.
Bowers is still $4,700. Can you believe this?
Oh man,
one catch last week. He was super disappointing for all of us who started him in the open league. I talked about that, how that really crushed me. He was my first round pick, but they were playing against a trash opponent, and it was a beatdown. So South Carolina, Georgia's expected to score a lot. I anticipate a bounce back week. Bowers will definitely be the feature of the offense this week. 4,700 is a steal. He will be in every one of my lineups that he's available, no doubt. I've got Luther Burden at 5,900. Now, if you know, they played Kansas State last year. Burden, had like one catch. It was maybe two catches, but it was a really pedestrian performance. He's the feature of Missouri, and rightfully so. Future NFL wide receiver at 5,900 with his size, speed. Give me some Burden for 5,900 all day. Jamari Thrash, only at 5,300. That's crazy to me. Barian Brown, yet again, is at 5,500. Hopefully he'll get more and more catches, but he caught a touchdown last week. I think he had 6 or 7 catches. And then we've got, hopefully, someone that is definitely a sleeper. He's got all the speed in the world going up against a young Florida secondary. Squirrel White. Now, there's been some inconsistency early on, and it's mostly because of the quarterback play. They don't have Hendon Hooker, who was much more accurate, and they move the ball through the air. Can you believe I don't think most people know Tennessee is the 4th ranked rushing offense in the country.
They are.
And
Well, between those two guys, man, they are.
Yeah,
you got
3.
Small and Wright, and then and 3.
Yeah. So they're it's going to be a classic Tennessee-Florida matchup where I think the winner is going to be who runs the ball more and who runs the ball better, I guess. That was like a historical stat with that game in the last few decades, actually. So it's interesting. Most people who haven't seen Tennessee think, oh, they're going to throw it around. They saw Florida look sloppy and whatnot against Utah. So Squirrel White, while he is a sleeper, he's more risky than Barian Brown, Jamari Thrash, Luther Bird, and Brock Bowers, who we talked about earlier. And then we've got Oronde Gadsden. The second is priced at $3,800. He's the feature of the offense at Syracuse with a status uncertain. So if you get clarity on him before kickoff, man, what a start that is at $3,800. We've also got Dayton Wade at the same price there, a low-cost option. I've got him in one of my lineups for sure. He had 7 catches last week. So if you can get a guy that's getting that many targets and catches for that kind of a price, also in a good matchup for Ole Miss, I like that. And then Jacob Cowing at $6,700. Certainly not the traditional sleeper because he's been a staple of college fantasy football for years now. Hasn't been the feature yet. Probably will happen very soon. Might as well be this week. But those are our sleepers of the week. And I've got these guys kind of sprinkled throughout my lineups. And I'll talk about a few of them here in a moment. But let's get to the stack of the week here.
Let me hit with a quick update.
Yeah, go for
real
it.
Fast. So, 28 minutes ago, Trey Harris for Ole Miss is out tonight.
Oh, that makes Dayton Wade even better.
And Quinshawn Judkins is doubtful.
Wow.
So, adjust your lineups, people.
Yeah, and if it's a standard CFF, I'm a little more leery about starting Jackson Dart with that information. You could take it as a positive and think, oh, well, Dart's just going to get the feature. We'll see how he does without his top receiver. Oh, man, Ole Miss has been beat up, and that stinks. But that's good.
Sorry, interrupted. We'll get to the to your stack now.
No,
I just wanted to let people know because those are 2 huge fantasy guys. So.
That's a massive one. We'll have to post that up on the Discord here whenever you get the shot. Let's move along to the stack of the week.
Stack of the week.
My stack of the week, and if you don't know what a stack is, well, that's just basically a quarterback wide receiver combo. Super fun to have in fantasy because you get more points on just one deep bomb touchdown. And I'm looking at Donovan Smith to Matthew Golden. $8,000 for Donovan Smith, $6,700 for Matthew Golden. Hey, a couple touchdowns would certainly be a big deal on your DFS or standard fantasy lineup for that matter. That's my stack of the week. Do you have one, Doug, or do you have a comment on that one?
Stole mine, buddy.
That's cool. That
was my stack of the week for sure. The other one that I find intriguing, and it's a little more expensive, but I have it because I saved money in other places, like by getting guys like Eugene Wilson from Florida, who I think is going to start getting featured more and more. But I really like DJU. I mean, I know he's 9,000, but I like DJU and Bolden from Oregon State at 6,000. I like that as a stack.
We'll watch that one this week.
They're playing San Diego State, so see what happens there. But they're a little more expensive. But like I said, I saved money in other areas, so I could kind of go bigger at quarterback once to see if it can get me out of this rut, bro. Got to get out of this rut.
All right, two more segments left. Let's go over our favorite lineups this week.
DFS Host Battle.
All right, so we've got our host battle. This is what we go over in the normal weekly show. This is up and live on the site. So all our
Always
DFS
looking different.
posts are
Always
boom,
looking different.
DFS. Yeah, Matt still doesn't know how to do a screenshot. Elderly Matt. I'll show him this next time he's over.
Elderly Matt.
But he's not eligible to come over for the Florida game tonight. If I even choose to have people over, since he's a NC State guy, so can't have any other chatter. Everybody have to be excited or depressed with me. My lineup in the host battle, and like I said, yeah, we all have Jordan. Oh, except
I do not.
Doug didn't have him. Okay, that's cool. But I've got Riley Leonard at 6,700. Which again, when I'm setting my lineup, that's what I'm doing, looking for a value, someone who's gonna put up points. Northwestern's defense hasn't looked as good as normal, and Riley Leonard's a dual threat guy. Hopefully he'll get a touchdown on the ground as well as a couple through the air. For 6,700, that is a good steal. I like Joar Jordan at 5,500. I've got Nick Singleton. Illinois, everybody knows they were a top defense last year. They lost a ton to graduation and haven't looked great this year. So for a player like Singleton, it takes one gap and then he is gone. So I like Singleton a lot at 6,300. And I've some of the sleepers we talked about. I've got 3 of them here. Bowers at 4,700, Burden at 5,900, Thrash at 5,300. Those guys are like bona fide, definitely going to get targets at those prices. Those are crazy values. And then Braylon Allen. So basically, I'm setting the lineup, finding guys that are going to get a bunch of touches and saving room for the last 2, going as pricey as I can on the flex and super flex. So I've got Braylon Allen there at 7,500 for Wisconsin against Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern, known for their passing attack, they're going to throw it around. Wisconsin will have the ball more likely there in terms of their time of possession. So I like Braylon Allen a ton there at 7,500. And then Drew Aller against Illinois. Same feedback for Singleton. Aller's looked incredible so far this year. Very poised, even though it hasn't had the best protection so far, but he just moves along, finds his reads, but he's also great on the ground as well. 7,900 in my super flex there. Doug, do you want to go over your lineups there? Do you have any others that you like?
Yeah, I'll go over this one real quick, and I'll express a concern that I have now as the week has progressed. So there's potentially some bad weather for that Boston College and Florida State game. Big old storm up there. But they're saying it's supposed to be a little bit better today than they thought. Could still have 30, 40 mile an hour winds, though. So that makes throwing the ball through the air pretty difficult.
Yep.
But I'm going to roll with it. It is what it is. Because Travis is also a force when he decides to use his legs, too. So I went with Edwards, kind of a sleeper this year for me in general, because we don't know what he's going to bring to the table yet. But I figured, the coach said he's definitely going to play. And at $5,000,
cool.
Somebody that's definitely going to play is is worthy for me.
They've got to get that running game going too at Georgia. Yeah.
Martinez, and then I went with Bowers as well. Keon Coleman, Thrash, then Cooper out of Indiana, especially with the injury concerns to Camper. Cooper did a great job last week, and then I went with this teammate who looks like a monster.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm rolling with it. Because all it takes is 2 big runs from him, and he gets me great value. So,
all right, y'all. Well, here's my favorite one for the late games. So this is the 10 o'clock, the late night version. And honestly, there's not a ton of games. I think there's 4 games in this group, so there's not a lot to pick from. I was really hoping and trying to make room for Shedeur Sanders because I think everyone's going to be playing Colorado players in that lineup. There's going to be a ton of Colorado fans in there gambling the late night ones. but I also think he's going to have a ton of success. So I think if you don't have him in your lineup and he does really well, like he has been, I think you're just guaranteed to lose. So what I could have done is put him as my my top quarterback instead of super flex, but it's just not how I set lineups. So I have Mikey Keene in there, one of our sleepers, at 6,800. I love Scatterbo for Arizona State this week. He's averaging 18 fantasy points a game. Fresno State's terrible against the run. He's only at 5,800. And I've got Michael Wiley, running back, at 6,000. He's averaging 17 fantasy points a game for Arizona. They're playing at home against UTEP. And then the other side of Scatterbo, and we've got a stack here, Mikey Keene to Eric Brooks, who's been one of the top fantasy receivers all year long. He's only at 6,300, averaging 32 fantasy points a game. Arizona State hasn't been great against the pass yet. So, potentially a really good game for him. And then Jacob Cowing at 6,700. I've got Torrey Horton at 5,100. I can't believe that one, going up against Colorado. It is possible, though. You'll see him matched up against Travis Hunter, but hopefully they'll be moving Horton around, trying to find ways to get him the ball and get him into the right matchups. Now, here we go in the flex. I've got a former 4-star running back, super fast. Watched him in the All-American game coming out of high school. He's averaging 1.7 fantasy points a game. I've got Rayshawn Luke as a total shot in the dark, may not even stat, but again, $3,600. I'm just trying to get Shadur in my lineup there because they're so limited. He's got a couple carries or whatever. So yeah, then in Superflex, I've got Shadur Sanders at 9,300. And then, do you have any other lineups that you wanted to go over? I've got one more.
Go ahead.
So I've got the night games. So this is not the super late games. This is the 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock games. So there's a little bit more teams available. And this is the one where I've got Chandler Morris at 7,200. And then at my super flex, I've got Donovan Smith. But I love everything in between. So it's not like I had to sacrifice like I did with the last lineup in my flex position with Rayshawn Luke. I've got Trevor Etienne at 5,900. Man, he's going to bust out one of these games. Selfishly, I'm hoping it will be tonight. And 5,900, still a really good value for someone who's going to get 15 touches. But that's going to be the game for Florida, Tennessee, is which team is able to run the ball. Tennessee's D-line's been really good. Florida's D-line's been much improved, and really you saw them hold Utah. Utah only had success running the ball with their quarterback on a couple plays. Otherwise, the running backs, who were really good, I think can average less than 3 yards per carry. So which team can run the ball? That's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, Utah needs rising back in that offense for sure.
Yep. I talked about him earlier in the show. Rodney Hammond, all the reasons why I like him as a super great value at 5,700. He's ready to bust out. Barry Brown at 5,500. Matthew Golden, 6,700. And then especially with the news Doug just gave about Trey being out this week. Dayton Wade having 7 catches last week. Now Trey is out. 3,800. I love that. And then I've got Ray Davis for Kentucky. They're hosting Akron this week. I've got him at 6,800. And I love that lineup. And right after the show, I'll put these in a couple. I love to do the double ups because I think, and the double ups with the increased number of people to me is more dumb people in there. So I like to go as much as I can in those double ups, finding the biggest pools, and I'll do a bunch of those. And then just in case you hit that perfect lineup, you want to be in one of those big pools where you can kind of get a bunch of money if you get lucky. There's a lot that comes when you get in those big ones. But if you put all of your money in the big ones, like that's no way to kind of play DraftKings to me. Like I've done it, had great lineups that you're just unlucky. You get one player that gets hurt in the first quarter, and then your whole lineup is screwed. That's kind of how it works. But I kind of invest, probably 70% in double ups, and I think that's where your best value is, best probability is. And then
I'm trying 2 of those today for the first time, so let's see how it works out.
good, yeah. There's a lot of people miss them. They're the little tabs across the top, little filters like your shopping
Mhm.
website or whatever. But yeah, that is that. And then we're a little behind our pace. Let's go ahead and flip into the stardom sit-em.
Start 'em or sit 'em.
All right, y'all. So we'll go through this pretty quick. Basically, how this section is going to work is I'm going to ask the questions like I'm asking them to a professional over here by the name of BMAC, and see how this works out. So we got Jay Morris. I'm assuming that's how you say it. Morace, maybe? I don't know.
Morris, yeah, from the Discord.
From the Discord. We got Finn or Miller this week. I think this one's pretty easy to answer at this point.
Yeah, well, this question was asked on 9/14. The news came out yesterday that Milroe is not getting the quarterback 1 reps right now. So, yeah, Finn this week. I've got Finn in my lineups where I've got him, and I think he's got let's see him have a big game this week. Easy start there now.
Yeah,
obviously.
just for a little knock on that one, he also threw in the comment, have to make sure I beat Carissa, for those of you that don't know.
I texted her that this morning because I don't think she saw it in the Discord. But
so there's just a bunch of fun trash talk between the guys and Chris. This has been fun. Big plans 0-0 asked Jordan Waters for Duke or Rodney Hammond for Pitt.
This is a really good one. Both of those are good starts. But you know how I like the potential of Rodney Hammond. It is a rivalry game. If you're going with the easier opponent, Duke Waters is the safer play. It really just depends on who you're matched up against, and we would need a little more context about the matchup. But I love the ceiling much higher for Rodney Hammond as far as potential to kind of break out against West Virginia, who is favored by 2.5 to win this game. But I think you'll see Rodney Hammond get more touches than Waters. Waters will have an easier go, certainly this week, though.
Big Plans
slightly
also,
into Hammond.
Yeah, Big Plans also asks Lincoln Victor from Washington State, or Brew McCoy, or Ricky Pearsall, or Xavier Townsend for UCF.
Yeah, Pearsall has been really good. I think he's been averaging like 24 to 28 fantasy points a game. He's the clear number 1 target for the Gators. Brew McCoy, not the clear number 1 target at Tennessee, and there's been accuracy issues there. Xavier Townsend, they spread the ball around a ton at UCF. I think easily Lincoln Victor here. Love that start for Washington State.
And then you got System with the UM. Love the name, by the way. Every time I see him in Discord, I'm like, man, I like that. I'm digging that name. But he needs 2. Ray Davis, Malusi, and McClellan. Which 2 would you pick of those? I could tell you my 2 just right off of a whim. I'm going to go McClellan at Alabama and Ray Davis at Kentucky for me.
We're in agreement. We can move on. We're in total agreement. Malusi's not the starter. And so give me the 2 starters. And
I'm just using it on a whim too, because Alabama, I think Buckner's going to be more of a game manager type style quarterback, and they're going to try to get back to that running game.
I think he's just a worse version of Milroe, but whatever.
And then we got looking for 2 flexes: Buckley, Scatabo, Etienne, Isaiah Bond, or Squirrel White.
Now, Bond and White are both great talents, super fast, and elite athletes, but I want to see it before I start them. I think Scatabo and Etienne both will get the right amount of touches, and I think those are the safer plays. Definitely Scatabo. Buckley Etienne is debatable. You could totally do a coin toss or a more fun 50-50 game on that one. But I'd probably go Scatabo, Etienne, and yes, again, I'm in a Gators shirt right now. So,
and then Nick is Songo. I don't know. Something. I don't know. Crazy long, crazy name that starts with Nick. Choose two. You got Pacer, Jarquez Hunter, Darius Taylor, Treshaun Ward, or Dane Key.
Choose two. I feel like I'm at Panera Bread. Let's go with I think the first two. I think he's got them listed in the order that I would pick. I like
agree.
Pacer and Jarquez Hunter.
I agree 100%. Guys, we got one more that popped up during the show. And I'll ask BMAC this question real fast here. So I believe it went. Okay, would you start quarterback Donovan Smith or Tennessee's Trey Milton? That's from Card-a-Lot King.
Donovan Smith, 1,000%. I think that's going to be one where it's going to be a shootout. It's one of our top shootouts of the week. And love Donovan Smith. I think Milton could definitely have a really good game in the Swamp. I do think Florida is going to probably stack the box to stuff the run if they have to, which they might have to, which is going to create some one-on-ones. Will Milton hit those shots? You've seen it. I saw some funny highlights of Milton where he's just overthrowing people with his strong arm. I heard other people, I think it was the Greg McElroy show, where talking about how Milton just only has a fastball, which makes it difficult for receivers. And then in an environment where it's going to be so loud, that place is going to be like Florida's in a backs against the wall, wounded animal mode. They have to win this game. It's going to be super intense. And with all of that going on, Milton's first road start in this kind of environment, I'm not going to bet on him over a Donovan McMillan. That start is not Donovan McMillan, Donovan Smith all the way.
Yep. And then I got about 2 minutes left, so I'm going to throw these two last questions that just popped up. Would you start this from William T? Would you start Quinn Ewers against Wyoming or Chandler Morris against Houston?
Morris. I think I love Ewers. I think he's great. Like I thought last week was a make or break game kind of for him, where it's like, will he fold against Alabama on the road, or will he showcase his, NFL potential? And while some of those like super deep bombs that he threw for touchdowns would have been nicer thrown to the corners, giving the receiver more room to run instead of them having to kind of run under it. I like him. I think he's a safe start this week. I also think Texas is going to get the run game going. Who was the other? Oh, it was Chandler Morris. Yeah, Chandler Morris. I think it's going to be a shootout. TCU's favored by like a touchdown, and they'll probably have around 5 touchdowns this week. So give me Morris this week.
And then BK 2010 asked a question to me, but I'll have you chime in on this one too, B. With Trey Harris being out for Ole Miss, should I start Jordan Watkins? I'm going to say absolutely. Yeah. It's going to be him and Wade, and I think those two are going to show why they deserve catches every week.
Guaranteed. In the future, it'd be nice to know like context who you're putting him against, but absolutely he becomes a great start this week.
So that's what we got for the questions for Start 'em and Sit 'em, bro. So,
all right. Well, hey, we appreciate it. I might go ahead and put in a few more DFS lineups. If I pick anyone different, I will publish them in the Discord. Let's win some money this week. Appreciate the time with everyone. For Doug and Brian, we'll see you guys. Have a great Saturday.
See y'all.
Thank you for listening to the CFB Dynasty podcast. Help us out by subscribing on YouTube and reviewing us on your podcast network.